You don't belong here, and I know exactly what you're trying to pull, Officer Marcus Webb snarled, his hand resting aggressively on his radio as he towered over 19-year-old Zara Williams. She stood frozen outside the prestigious Whitmore University Library at 11 p.m., clutching her acceptance letter to the Advanced Molecular Biology program, simply trying to deliver the paperwork before tomorrow's deadline. Zara's heart pounded as she watched this campus security guard block her path with zero remorse, his eyes filled with the kind of suspicion she'd hoped to leave behind. Suddenly, emergency sirens wailed in the distance. Police lights flashed across the quad, and students began gathering with their phones out, recording everything. But here's what Officer Webb didn't know. He had no idea who he was messing with. Before we dive into this incredible story, if you stand against racial profiling and discrimination on college campuses, hit the subscribe button, type yes, and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. You will definitely get a heartwarming reply from us because this community fights for justice together. Zara Williams had dreamed of this moment her entire life. At just 19, she had worked 3 jobs throughout high school, tutoring younger students, cleaning offices on weekends, and serving at a local diner, all to save money for college applications and preparation courses. Tonight was special. Tomorrow was her late grandmother's birthday, and Zara had promised to honor her memory by hand-delivering her acceptance into Whitmore's prestigious molecular biology program, the same program her grandmother had been denied entry to 60 years earlier because of her race. Zara had spent her last $200 on a professional portfolio folder and overnight express fees to ensure her paperwork arrived perfectly. She was respectful, determined, and carried herself with the quiet dignity her grandmother had taught her. Her acceptance letter wasn't just a piece of paper. It represented 3 generations of dreams, sacrifice, and the breaking of barriers that had held her family back for decades. What Officer Webb couldn't see in his blind prejudice was that this young woman had scored in the top 1% nationally on her entrance exams, had letters of recommendation from Nobel Prize winners, and carried herself with the grace of someone destined for greatness. What Webb also couldn't know was that Zara's father, Dr. James Williams, was not just any parent. He was the Dean of Academic Affairs at Whitmore University and one of the most respected educators in the country. Dr. Williams had built his career from nothing, starting as the first in his family to attend college, working his way through Harvard on full scholarship, and eventually becoming the youngest dean in Whitmore's 150-year history. Dr. Williams had transformed Whitmore's academic programs, bringing in over $50 million in research grants and building partnerships with universities across the globe. His Rolodex included Supreme Court justices, Fortune 500 CEOs, senators, and university presidents from every Ivy League school. He was known for his philanthropy, having personally funded scholarships for over 200 underprivileged students, and his network of powerful allies spanned across academia, business, and government. But most importantly, he was a father who had taught his daughter to walk with dignity through any door, knowing she belonged everywhere she chose to stand. Officer Marcus Webb had worked campus security for 8 years, and in his mind, he was the unofficial gatekeeper of Whitmore's standards. At 45, Webb had developed a pattern of excessive scrutiny towards students of color, convinced that his intuition about who belonged on campus was more accurate than any ID card or paperwork. Webb had started as a city police officer, but had been quietly transferred to campus security after multiple complaints about his aggressive tactics in predominantly black neighborhoods. He saw his role at Whitmore as protecting the university's reputation and felt that certain students were clearly charity cases who didn't understand the institution's culture. His personnel file, unknown to most, contained 17 formal complaints about discriminatory behavior, but his supervisor had consistently buried them, focusing instead on Webb's dedication and attention to detail. Webb genuinely believed he was doing the university a service by questioning students who didn't fit his narrow definition of what a Whitmore student should look like. "Let me see some ID and explain what you're really doing here this late," Webb demanded, positioning himself directly in Zara's path as she approached the library's after-hours drop box. "Of course, officer," Zara replied calmly, pulling out her temporary student ID and acceptance letter. "I'm delivering my enrollment paperwork before tomorrow's deadline." Webb barely glanced at her documents. This could be fake. These kids today, they'll try anything to get into places they don't belong. He spoke loudly enough for passing students to hear, clearly trying to humiliate her. Zara watched as Webb waved through 3 white students who passed by without being asked for any identification at all. When a blonde girl dropped her books, Webb rushed to help her, calling her Miss and asking if she needed campus escort services. "Sir, my paperwork is legitimate. I can call the admissions office if you need verification," Zara offered, maintaining her composure despite her growing frustration. "Don't get smart with me," Webb snapped back. "I've seen your type before. You think because you have some fancy letter, you can just waltz around here like you own the place?" When Zara pulled out her smartphone to show digital copies of her test scores and recommendation letters, Webb's hostility intensified. "Now you're trying to intimidate me with technology? I'm calling this in as suspicious behavior." "Officer, I'm simply trying to submit required documents," Zara said, her voice steady but her hands trembling slightly. "That's it. You're loitering, you're argumentative, and I don't believe your story. Campus police are on their way," Webb announced, grabbing his radio with theatrical authority. "If you believe Officer Webb was completely wrong to profile Zara this way, type justice in the comments. Tell us what you would have done if you were Dr. Williams when he found out about this incident. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss stories like this." 3 miles away, Dr. James Williams sat in Whitmore University's boardroom, facing the most important meeting of his career. The university's board of trustees was considering him for the position of university president, which would make him the first black president in the institution's history. Seated around the mahogany table were some of the most powerful people in academia and business, including 2 university presidents, a federal judge, and the CEO of a major technology company. "James, your vision for expanding our international programs is exactly what Whitmore needs," Board Chairman Robert Sterling was saying when Dr. Williams' phone buzzed with an emergency alert. The message was from the campus security monitoring system. "Code Yellow, student detention in progress. Library Quad, Officer Webb responding." But what made Dr. Williams' blood run cold was the attached photo from a student's social media post. His daughter Zara, standing with her hands visible, surrounded by 3 campus police officers, with a crowd of students recording everything. "Gentlemen, I need to excuse myself immediately," Dr. Williams said, his voice suddenly carrying an edge that made everyone in the room straighten up. As he stood, his phone began ringing. First, His assistant, Dr. Williams, there's a situation with Zara. Then his wife. James, someone posted a video online of Zara being harassed by security. Then his brother-in-law, Judge Marcus Williams. James, I'm seeing reports about Zara on the news feeds. Do you need me to make some calls? Within minutes, Dr. Williams had the university's head of security, the campus police chief, and 3 board members on conference call. His network was already mobilizing before he even left the building. Dr. Williams. Black Mercedes pulled up to the library quad just as local news vans were arriving. The crowd of students had grown to over 100, with hashtag Justice for Zara already trending on social media. Officer Webb was still detaining Zara, who sat calmly on a bench, surrounded by police officers who were beginning to look uncomfortable as more authority figures arrived on scene. Dr. Williams stepped out of his car, and the crowd immediately recognized him. At 6'2", with silver hair and wearing his signature navy suit, he commanded attention wherever he went. But tonight, he wasn't the composed academic leader everyone knew. Tonight, he was a father whose child had been wronged. "Stop!" His voice boomed across the quad, causing everyone, officers, students, even the news cameras, to freeze. "Everyone stop exactly what you are doing." Officer Webb turned around, irritated by the interruption. "Sir, this is official police business. You need to—" "I am Dr. James Williams," he announced, his voice carrying across the silent quad. "I am the Dean of Academic Affairs at this university. I sit on the Board of Trustees, and that young woman you have detained is my daughter." The color drained from Webb's face as murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Furthermore," Dr. Williams continued, pulling out his phone, "I have the university's head of security, the campus police chief, and 3 members of the Board of Trustees on conference call right now, along with my brother-in-law, Federal Judge Marcus Williams, who is very interested in this situation." As if on cue, several black SUVs pulled up. The university president stepped out of one, the head of campus security from another, and a man in an expensive suit who introduced himself as the Williams family attorney. Dr. Williams walked directly to the security camera mounted on the library wall. "I want to see every minute of footage from tonight, starting from when my daughter arrived on campus." Within minutes, the footage was displayed on a laptop. The crowd watched in complete silence as the video showed Zara's respectful behavior, Webb's clear profiling of her, while ignoring white students, and his escalating aggression despite her calm compliance. "Officer Webb," Dr. Williams said, his voice deadly calm, "in the 8 minutes of footage we've reviewed, you violated university policy 6 times, federal anti-discrimination laws twice, and basic human decency more times than I care to count." Webb stammered. I was just doing my job. I didn't know." "You didn't know what? That black students have the right to be on this campus? That my daughter, who scored 1,580 on her SATs and has recommendation letters from 3 Nobel laureates, belongs here?" The university president stepped forward. "Officer Webb, you are suspended immediately pending a full investigation." Within 24 hours, Officer Webb was terminated from his position. The university's investigation revealed his pattern of discriminatory behavior, and criminal charges for civil rights violations were filed by the district attorney's office. His supervisor, who had buried previous complaints, was also terminated. Dr. Williams used his platform to demand systematic changes. The university implemented mandatory bias training for all security personnel, created an anonymous reporting system for discrimination, and established a student advocacy office with direct access to the administration. A $500,000 scholarship fund was created in Zara's grandmother's name, specifically for students from underrepresented communities pursuing STEM fields. The incident sparked a campus-wide conversation about inclusion and belonging that led to policy changes at universities across the country. 2 weeks later, Zara returned to campus for her official orientation. This time, she was personally escorted by the university president and greeted by a group of faculty members from the molecular biology program. Students approached her throughout the day, thanking her for standing up to injustice and inspiring change. The enrollment paperwork she had tried to deliver that night was ceremonially submitted in a special ceremony attended by her entire family. Her grandmother's photo was displayed prominently, and Zara spoke about how this experience had strengthened her resolve to use her education to fight for equity in science and medicine. The portfolio folder she had saved for months to buy now sits framed in Dr. Williams' office, next to a photo of Zara at her first day of classes, and a letter from the Nobel laureate who had recommended her, praising her grace under pressure. 1 year later, Zara Williams stands at the top of her molecular biology class, conducting groundbreaking research on genetic therapies for underserved communities. The scholarship program, created in her grandmother's name, has supported 23 students, 3 of whom are already conducting published research. Officer Webb's case became a landmark example used in civil rights training programs across the country. The video of Dr. Williams's response has been viewed over 5 million times and is used in leadership courses at universities nationwide. Dr. Williams was unanimously elected as Whitmore University's president 6 months after the incident, becoming the first black president in the institution's history. In his inaugural address, he held up that same enrollment folder and said, "Every student who walks through our doors carries dreams, potential, and the right to be treated with dignity. We will never forget that lesson." The library quad where the incident took place now features a memorial garden dedicated to dignity, justice, and academic excellence, with Zara's grandmother's favorite quote engraved in stone. "Education is the key that unlocks the door to freedom, but respect is what allows you to walk through it with your head held high." This story shows us that injustice can happen anywhere, but when we stand together and speak truth to power, real change is possible. If this story inspired you to stand up against discrimination, subscribe to our channel, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and tell us in the comments how you're working to make your community more just and inclusive. Together, we can ensure that every student, regardless of their race or background, can pursue their dreams with dignity and respect.